Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this webinar today. We are talking about automating your missed call follow-ups with ServiceTitan. I would have to say that this slide is very off-center. So for those of you who are particular about that, I'm sorry. You're probably you're probably trying to move it to the center with your eyes. It's not going to happen. So you're going to just have to deal with an off-center slide. But anyway, my name is Kristen, and I'm the head of marketing here at Hatch. I'm joined by two awesome Hatch team members today. We're talking about ServiceTitan abandoned call follow-up. While I'd just like to give you guys a minute or two to come in, but I see there's already a bunch of you in here. So please put in the chat where you're coming from, where you're reporting in from. And also, I'm curious to know if you're already using Hatch or if you are not using Hatch, because that also helps us to know, if we got a bunch of Hatch users on the call, we can use some more Hatch lingo. But if we don't have a lot of Hatch users on the call, we can gear the conversation that way. So I know it takes a second for those chats to come in. While those chats are coming in, I'm going to introduce our speakers. Mike says he's from Buffalo and he's a Hatch user and a niche fanboy. Wow, niche has a fan base here. Chelsea is from Aquarius Home Services. They already use Hatch and ServiceTitan. Great to see that. Wheat Ridge. Devin is a Hatch user. Nick Spinner is a new Hatch user. Carrie Ann, good to see you. I know you had some trouble getting into the last webinar, so excited that you made it. Tracy, not a Hatch user yet. Well, hopefully we can give you some more information here. Welcome. Two brands utilizing Hatch. That is the Master Trades Group. Good morning from Orange County, California. That's Kathleen. Welcome. Scott is not a Hatch user from Fort Worth. Welcome, Scott. Glad to have you here. We got Marcy from Baltimore, Hatch user for multiple companies. Sounds like maybe we have a power user on the line. Julie, welcome. I've seen your name before, so it's good to see you again. Mackenzie, great to see you. Oh, Mackenzie and Sasha, you guys were here just a few days ago in the Hatchinar. So Tori, welcome also. Not a Hatch user yet. I like that little verbiage there. All right. Well, you guys keep telling us where you're coming in from and also whether or not you're using Hatch. And I'm going to introduce our speakers here. So we have Niche. Niche, I'm going to take a stab at pronouncing your last name. Is it Chatterjee?
It's close. It's just Chatterjee. It makes
more
sense.
Oh, it's not even close.
I know. You just got to hear it once and then it makes sense.
Yeah, Chatterjee. Is that how I say it in my head? I think that is how I say it in my head. But when I came out with it, I was like, let me just go fancy Chatterjee. Yeah. Okay, so we've got Niche. And Niche, I know your title has changed a few times. Can you confirm for me your current title?
Absolutely. So I am our account management team lead.
Okay.
And AI subject matter expert.
Awesome. Well, glad to have you here, Niche. And Diane Tiblin, your name is a little bit easier to pronounce unless I Tiblin it or make it more fancy. Diane, why don't you tell us, well, you already told us your name. Well, I've told everybody your name, but what is your role here at Hatch?
No, you nailed it, Kristen, but you would be surprised. I am on the product team specializing in integrations, helped develop this feature that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. Well, excited to have you guys here. We were going to have Chelsea on the call, Chelsea Munoz. She is the call center supervisor at Point Loma Electric and Plumbing. She's quite a Hatch and ServiceTitan power user. Unfortunately, her daughter wasn't feeling well and she had to go pick up her daughter from school early. So she's not going to be on the webinar this time around, but we will definitely be doing more with Chelsea because she is a great resource and she offers great insights. All right. So as you guys know, this is a webinar on doing abandoned call campaigns in ServiceTitan. So we're just going to walk through kind of the basics of what it is, how to get it set up, and we welcome your questions throughout this webinar. If they are directly tied to what we're talking about, we can answer them. We'll probably answer them as we go. If it's a separate question, feel free to ask that as well, and we can address that at the end. But I like to make this interactive, so do feel free to ask whatever questions you have. And for those of you who are new Hatch users, there are no stupid questions. And even if you're not a new Hatch user, there's still no super stupid questions. And those of you who are not using Hatch, ask away. We are happy to get you the information that you need. All right. Let me switch over to, let's see here. Did you guys do any of that, or did somebody else switch over the settings? It was just swapped between like 3 views. All right, I'm gonna just put it on our faces for right now. Cool. Okay. So I'm gonna quickly define what a ServiceTitan abandoned call campaign is, even though I'm sure you guys probably already know. Everybody gets missed calls. Sometimes it's just that you don't have enough bandwidth. Other times you're just, well, I guess it's the same thing. You're on the other line. I know something that Chelsea had mentioned in the past was that they get a lot, their call center gets all of their calls. So not just people looking for services, but vendors, I don't know, people looking to apply for a job there. Like anybody can call into that number. So there's just a lot of clutter on the line, I guess. So anyway, Hatch allows you to create campaigns that reach back out to those calls that were missed or abandoned. And so we're going to talk about how to set that up. What are some of the messaging best practices around that? And we're going to get into AI. So, all right. So let's see, where do we start? Let's talk about, let me quickly share my screen, actually. I'm going to just show you guys an example of, you guys can see my screen, right? Okay. So this is just so you guys can have a visual, especially those of you who don't use Hatch. This is just one of many campaigns you can do in Hatch, but as you can see, this is a very simple campaign. So it's 3 texts that go out, one that goes out right when the call was missed, one that goes out 2 days later, and then one that goes out 5 days later or 2 days after that. So that's, I know it's kind of self-explanatory, but just so you can have a visual. Niche, let's talk about actually first, Diane, let's talk about setting up the audience. Sorry, I'm switching around over here. For those on the call who aren't ServiceTitan users, like how does that set up? How does that audience get set up?
Well, in terms of bringing in the data, that we would do in the integration screen. It's very simple. You just toggle it on, and all the setup happens on the back end. Once you have that data, we have an audience template that's going to target your abandoned calls that happened today. And then you would create a campaign. We are in the process of developing like a best practice campaign that users could default to if they would like to do that. But today you would come in and create your own campaign sequence to your own preferences.
Yeah. And yeah, so guys, Diane, she's on the integrations team, and that team exists so that you guys can literally like kind of make connections with like 1 or 2 clicks on your end. That means a lot of stuff that goes on the back end for us, but that's okay. Anyway, so Diane, I believe we have audience templates for this, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And so again, the goal here is to try to make it easy. We set up sort of what we know are the sort of necessary fields that you would need. And then from there, if you wanted to do any little customizations, like Chelsea, for example, is targeting a specific call duration on their abandoned calls. So you could add little customizations like that in, but we do have a template that we know should work.
Great. Cool. And then Niche, over to you. Can you talk to me a little bit about like the best practices around here? Are most customers that are using this campaign type right now, are they using this like simple language and like these 3 messages?
Yes, absolutely. So I would definitely recommend doing multiple messages over the course of a few days. We have the ability to remove customers if you need to remove them. For instance, if you did end up reconnecting with them and scheduling an appointment, we can, of course, remove those customers on the workflow. But if they don't reconnect with you, you want to make sure that you still get a hold of them. So I would typically do a message on day 1, another message within 2 days, and another message within 2 days of that. So this missed call campaign, you can do an assortment of setups, but I would do at least 3 touch points over the course of, let's say, 5 days here would be our best practice.
Okay, great. And I think, Diane, you were saying that we may eventually come out with like a template that we can use, but it's still a little bit early, right? So we're just kind of seeing how other people are using it and the results there.
Yeah, it's definitely something on our mind. We just wanted to make sure we had enough, research to actually guide a best practice.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and just so you guys know on the call, I'll read out. This is I've looked through a few campaigns that our customers are using, and it's all very much the same. It's very simple language. Day 1, hi, this is, your company name. It looks like we missed a call from you. Would now be a good time to chat. Day 3, thanks again for calling us the other day. We didn't hear back from you. Text us back with what you need. We're always here to help. Day 5, hey, this is your company name again. If you ever need help with anything, please text us at this number. So very basic. Joe wants to know, Joseph Pizzini wants to know, these are abandoned calls you made through Hatch, correct? These are calls that, correct me if I'm wrong, Nish and Diane, these are calls that people called in and you weren't able to pick up, right? Or did the call get dropped or what?
Yeah, I can go through a little more in depth and how the integration works. So these are going to be abandoned calls that are registered in ServiceTitan. So when someone calls into one of your phone numbers that's linked with ServiceTitan, and it gets classified as abandoned, we're actually thinking any inbound calls. So abandoned, unbooked, etc. We find abandoned to be the most useful sort of use case. But so we utilize ServiceTitan's webhooks so that as soon as that call is completed, it syncs into Hatch.
Right. Yeah, that's a great distinction. All call statuses, it's a data point in ServiceTitan that all those statuses come in, because I know Point Loma does one for the unbooked status as well. And then, so you just pick when you're creating your audience, you just pick that status.
Yeah, we have that defaulted already in the template to abandoned.
Yep. And Kelly wants to know, do you have to be using ServiceTitan?
Yeah, so today the feature that we have is specifically for abandoned calls from ServiceTitan. I know that other teams on the product side are working on sort of a missed call feature for your Hatch calls. That's something that's definitely in the works.
Yep. And Nish, I know you answered this for Marcy. I'm just going to read it out. So Marcy wanted to know, if the customer calls back, will Hatch still search in ServiceTitan every 15 minutes to see if they called back and booked? And Nish, do you want to just let us know what your response was to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if the customer calls back and then ends up booking an appointment, they would have probably gotten that first message from the missed call campaign initially. But we set up some parameters so that they don't get double dropped immediately into another campaign. Once the record updates within Hatch, we use our removal rules within the workflow to remove them if an appointment is booked. So they won't continue to get messages as part of that campaign if they book.
Okay, great. Chelsea wants to know, we have prompts for HVAC, water, and sales. Can there be multiple campaigns for each prompt or one generic one?
It's an interesting question. I guess there would have to be some kind of identifier coming from ServiceTitan, whether that's maybe a certain phone line that they called, or maybe the marketing campaign is linked in that data point from ServiceTitan. It's definitely something we could take a look at.
Yeah. Carrie Ann wants to know, is Hatch able to recognize a spam call that doesn't make it through ServiceTitan to our VoIP phone system? Do either of you guys know or understand that one?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure of the answer for that one.
Okay, that's fine. Carrie, if you is the question, Diane or Nish, are you guys unclear on the question, or is it just we don't know the answer and we'll get back to her on that?
The latter for me.
Okay, cool. We'll get back to you on that, Carrie. Very cool last name, by the way. How ironic that your last name is Texter and you're using a texting platform. Okay, so, and then Marcy had another follow-up question. So this audience campaign would work like any audience campaign, and Niche, you said yes. Julie wants to know, I have quite a few contacts that are getting campaign messages after booking. Should I get with technical support on this to see if they can be removed after booking?
I would say let's touch base with your account manager, Julie. So your account, are you with Degree Heating and Cooling? That's what I'm seeing in here. I will touch base with your account manager to let them know. That's Jonathan. And hopefully I can get you some answers with Jonathan and get that cleaned up for you.
Cool. She said yes, sir. So awesome. Okay. Well, guys, keep the questions coming. I'm gonna also I want to touch on attaching a bot to your campaign. So as you guys know, when you, well, some of you know and some of you may not know that Hatch, you use Hatch to automate outreach across the customer journey. And what we find is that that multi-touch outreach, the targeted outreach, hitting every single opportunity, that increases the number of responses that you're getting. People see like quadruple the number of responses, and then it's just not that easy to keep up with. So we've created AI CSRs that when your automated campaign goes out and a customer responds, in the past, it was just you would have a Hatch person that would be there ready to intercept that message when it comes through and start engaging with the customer. And now we have these AI CSRs that can do that for you and take care of all those interactions until a human is needed. In some cases, a human may not be needed and the bot can take it all the way through. Maybe the bot is just disqualifying the lead for you. Or maybe the bot is collecting all the redundant, doing all that redundant work of that, getting the basic information and then passing it off to a rep who can book the appointment or carry through, the interaction to the finish line. So that being said, I just want to talk a little bit about using a bot because I know some customers are attaching bots to their abandoned call campaigns. Is that right, Niche?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So the way that works is, customer calls in, the call gets marked as abandoned in ServiceTitan. Hatch picks up that because for those of you on the call who aren't familiar with Hatch, there's a bi-directional sync. So Hatch will pick up that this call has been marked as abandoned. That automated campaign will go out. Customer may respond, and if they respond, then the bot can step in. And this is also useful if the customer responds. The automated outreach is great. You reach out to them in real time, but they're not necessarily going to respond to you right away. Like they got other things that they're doing. So if your campaign goes out and they respond, they might wait until they're out of work, in which case you're not in work anymore. So you're not able to respond, or maybe, you're doing other things or you're on break. So that's another really great use case for these bots, is just kind of filling the gaps there. So is there anything in particular, Niche, that I guess it depends on because, for speed to lead there, you can easily train your bot to kind of pick up on that information. How are people programming their bots for these campaigns? Because they could be calling in about anything, right?
Right. So there's two different ways that we can go. We can either choose the bot that schedules directly in ServiceTitan. If most of your missed call opportunities are for scheduling related circumstances, then we can certainly tie this to a scheduler bot. We could also use our basic bot to help you triage the customers. And the basic bot has a little bit more of a conversational tone, a little bit more nuanced in conversation, and can handle multiple different levels of communication, whether it be a customer coming in wanting to book, a customer needing to know information about an installation or checking in on an estimate. So it's really up to you what your end goal is and what your experience with customers who call in are. Are they more motivated to book their initial appointment? If so, let's do ServiceTitan Scheduler. Are they more mixed? Let's do Basic Bot.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good distinction, Niche. And I'm going to just pull up let me pull it up on another window. Just because that the basic bot, what Niche is referring to is legacy, Hatch, the original Hatch bots. The way that you would set up, you basically train them by giving them a set of instructions. I want you to collect this piece of information, this piece of information, this piece of information, and they're all individual prompts. And that's great because the bot is really good and will make sure it gets that information. But sometimes the bot can be a little bit too loyal to the order of operations there. So, for appointment setting, for example, it's that those conversations are typically the same every single time. So there's very little, it very rarely is going to mess up there. But, sometimes if a customer goes off and things kind of go out of order, the bot sometimes gets stuck. Not every time. The bot, like these bots are context aware, like they dynamically respond based on what they're getting. But that being said, like we found that when we turned it into one prompt, the bot just had a little bit more flexibility and could kind of like answer and gather information from like step 5 and then go back to step 3, as opposed to trying to stick to that same order of operations. So I'm just pulling it up on my computer here so you guys can see the visual of that. So if you just give me a second, use Hatch app. Here we go. All right. So I'm just going to show you a visual. So this is what the prompts look like in the legacy bot. It's a little bit blurry, but you guys can kind of get the gist of it, right? Like the campaign message there. So the campaign message goes out, and then this is asking like, what is their name? This is all the information you're telling the bot to collect. What type of service are they looking for? Which job type are they looking for? Get their email address, get their phone number, basically all these rinse and repeat questions. With basic bot, it's different. It's basically one of these prompt boxes and you put all the instructions in one place. So this is an example of kind of like, you just put a single script in there. And what this also enables you to do is, it's not really in here. There are a few places. If their response is vague, then do this. So this basic bot script allows you to have some more decision tree. So what Niche is kind of saying is that you can add more flexibility. So like, if the customer was looking for this, then do this. If the customer was looking for that, then do that. Am I right there, Niche?
Yep, exactly. A lot more if-then statements.
Yep. And here's a picture of what that looks like. And another thing to know is you can pretty much like write out like in your head, like what would you tell a human to do in this conversation? Like, what would you tell them? Hey, if they do this, do that. If you do this, then that. You can just paste it all into this box. And then when you hit format, I should be doing this live. I should have just pulled up a live thing, but when you hit format, it'll actually turn it into language that the bot, it'll organize it in a way that the bot can understand. Cool. Okay. So let me just go back to this window, and I know we've got a few more questions coming in. So let's take a look. Okay, so Chelsea is having the same problem as Julie and Niche. You are on that. This is a great question. I think I'm saying it correctly. Shwana wants to know, are there any companies that are currently using the abandoned campaign? And if so, do you know their success or conversion rates as a result? Niche, do you have, you may not know exact conversion rates or success, but can you tell us about what some of the companies that are currently using, what have been their thoughts on this campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So Point Loma is getting a large number of bailout opportunities with their missed call campaigns, which is not a bad thing. They're using the bot with ServiceTitan scheduling, and they're getting a lot of bailouts. And I think this is probably due to the fact that the conversation might have a little bit more nuance. It might not just be strictly focused on scheduling the customer. But over the past 30 days, they have had 6 customers who we missed the call successfully schedule in their ServiceTitan instance. They've had 71 where human intervention has come in. I don't have the exact data on that front, but that's one of our larger bot customers that is using the missed call campaign. So 71 have spoke with a person after going through the missed call campaign. 6 have not even needed to speak to someone and have booked an appointment directly.
That's great. And I remember, I'll put a link to it in here as well, because we did a webinar with Chelsea and we did touch on this. And she, to Nisha's point, she was just saying like they get every call into their call center. So like normally they would just have to go through, listen to the voicemail, figure out who it's for, and then call them back. But now like that campaign goes out, and sometimes she said, or a lot of times it's people that are just butt dialing them. Like they just got off the phone and they called, like they accidentally called. So that's another definite key. So yes, there's some conversion happening there, to Nisha's point, but also it's just saving time on I don't know, disqualified leads, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And we do have quite a few organizations using it besides just Point Loma. I think over 30 are currently active. This is a relatively new feature. So we're still making sure, everyone knows about it and knows how useful it could be.
For sure. I'm just trying to pull up that recap. Where is it? Oh, I know where I can find it. Chelsea wants to know, will the scheduler bot use our service availability and ServiceTitan, understand different trade and capacity percentages? Niche, you got this one, or do you want me to?
Sorry, one more time?
That's okay. I know you're answering questions on the webinar. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have not scrolled down. There is much more. So Chelsea wants to know, will the scheduler bot use our service availability in ServiceTitan, understand different trade and capacity percentages?
Yep. So ServiceTitan Scheduler Bot is tied directly to the technician shifts and capacity planning that's assigned to each business unit. So if you're using the ServiceTitan Scheduler Bot, you just got to make sure that you have technician shifts and capacity planning attached to the business units.
Yeah, great. I'm going to get to these other questions. I'm going to put this in the chat before I forget. So this is the recap from the webinar we did with Point Loma. And Chelsea, we touched on it briefly, but she's like, it's like her favorite workspace in Hatch. So we talk about it for a little bit. So that's in there. The recording and the written recap is in there. And then I'm also going to just share with you guys the blog post that we put out talking about abandoned calls. That way you can have it for reference. And keep in mind, this webinar is being recorded and we will send it out. You'll get the recording sent to you shortly after it's done. Okay, great. So we answered Chelsea's question. Let's see. Julie said that she spoke to her CSR manager today, and he said this campaign has gotten a lot of feedback from clients that then schedule. This is for multiple brands with us at Zephyr. That's really great to know, Julie. Thank you for sharing that. Please continue to let us know about your successes with that. And I think Chelsea, let's see, I should scroll down and make sure I'm not, I see Diane, you responded to that. Okay, Chelsea wants to know, I think this is probably a question for Julie, asking what our typical, oh no, sorry, not your typical call volume. Chelsea is wondering, what is Point Loma's typical call volume for comparison? Are you able to, do you know that? If you don't, that's okay, Niche.
Yeah, so since we started the missed call workflow with them, they've had 1,747 contacts go through the campaign. And I will show you what that dates back to in 3, 2, 1, dates back to Halloween. So in about 3 months, They've had 1,700 plus contacts go through the campaign. The bot is relatively new as a part of this campaign. So the campaign was up and running before we added the bot.
Okay. Yeah. And then, so that 6 of those have actually booked without anybody having to work it. But then I think there's like right now, there's something like 75 or so people in the campaign, right? Is that,
Yep.
did I see that right? Yeah. So there's definitely still people even being worked there. And then back to what Nish was saying, you know, there's a lot of that is just filtering out some of the noise. All right. What else do we got here? Oh, okay. Yeah. So Scott asked, are these bots only chat bots, or do you have the ability to use voice AI? And Nish said that our founder is going to love what you just asked about voice AI. And the reason for that is that our chatbots are chatbots right now. I don't even really like to call them chatbots because a chatbot is still very like you have to like build it out. These are very dynamic. So we call them AI CSRs, but either way, I guess we do still call them bots. We are coming out with voice AI. So our voice has 2 components. Right now, we are coming out next week with the call step in campaigns. So that is still a manual thing. But the reason for that is that a lot of our customers, they still use manual calling. They still use voice calling. And so what happens is they use Hatch for the email, text, and ringless voicemail portion of it. And then they're using a different platform for the calling. And they want that to be in one place. So now you'll be able to add a step in your campaigns that'll bring up a notification for that rep to make a phone call. And then they can make the phone call right in Hatch. And then once that call is done, they can disposition it. And then depending on the outcome of that call, the contact will either stay in the campaign. So if they didn't pick up the call, or take them out, it'll take them out of the campaign if they did pick up the call. That is our human voice portion. What we're getting to, though, is voice AI. So I believe the first rollout of this is going to be the AI. So our AI will be able to receive inbound calls and handle inbound calls. And then in the subsequent phases, it'll also be able to make outbound calls. All right. What else is happening here? I got a lot to catch up on. Sasha wants to know, what if a caller called in multiple times? Would they receive multiple follow-up texts from Hatch? Did anybody answer that already? Nish or Diane?
Both of us.
You did. Okay. Sorry. Literally it's right there. Can you share what your response was over the thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is configurable to the preference. Typically, we'd like to put a blocker in there where this person can only be dropped into a specific campaign, once a day. So if they call and then you miss it, and then they call again and you miss it, they're not going to get 2 separate campaign messages. It's typical and best practice when we're setting up the audiences to prevent that.
Great. And then Cindy asked, does the bot reach out to the abandoned call right away or a certain time later in the day? And what was the answer to that?
Best practice is right away. And then if the customer does not respond, follow-up occurs in the cadence that's shown on the presentation screen, which is customizable. You can do launch day, and then you can follow up day 3 if they don't respond to the launch day message, or configurable to your preference.
I have a question, Nish. Is there any messaging of like, because we like to make sure we're reaching the customer on the channel they reached out on. So do you have any customers that are saying something like, hey, we saw we missed a call from you, like we're going to give you a call back, but if you want to text back in the meantime, that kind of thing? Is anybody using that method?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I've implemented with one of our partners is, hey, sorry we missed your call. If you'd like to text, tell me what you're looking for. If you'd prefer a call, we can give you a call back as well. So something along those lines in the wording of the campaign. Typically, since it's a missed call right away, customers aren't going to call back within 2 seconds of just getting missed. So if we can just shoot them a text and ask them, hey, do you prefer a phone call or a text? so be it. I know myself, I'm on the phone all day, every day, 8 to 5. So I typically prefer to text if I have to make a call, and then I can actually text to get that work done. Works for me.
Yep, totally. All right. Did I miss any questions? I don't think I think we're caught up, right? Because Scott asked a question, but I answered it, that it can do an outbound campaign with voice AI. Did we miss anything? Is there anything that we talked about backstage that we were going to cover that we haven't covered? I think we hit most of it. Okay. Well, we're going to leave this up because I'm sure a few more questions will come in. But while we, oh, wait, what did you say, Niche? Nobody answer Mike.
Mike's
I thought you were saying nobody answered Mike, and I was like, wait, where is he?
Mike, yes, missed calls are going to be in reporting. It's tied to any other report where we can drill down based on campaign as well.
Great. What I was going to say is we have a poll. So I'm just going to launch this poll now. This is just if you are a Hatch customer and you want to like set up an abandoned call campaign, or maybe you just need to reach out to your account manager for something else, you can select option A. If you are not a current Hatch user and you want to learn more, you want to get a demo and ask questions and just see how it works and how it would work specific to your business, choose option B. And whatever option you choose, we will have somebody reach out to you so we can answer your questions. I'm curious if there's anybody on the call that, let's see. I'm curious if there is anybody on the call that is currently using abandoned call campaign. So let us know there. And then Julie just asked another question and Niche answered it. So I'm going to address that. When it comes to the campaign, is there a way to see the names of the contacts currently being contacted? And Niche, you said that if there is a contact record in ServiceTitan already, that will be present in Hatch.
Correct.
Got it.
I think in terms of like seeing who's actively in the campaign, Julie, there is that to the left of the sequence, the in campaign tab. So you can see who is like presently receiving messages, but has not responded yet.
Okay. Yeah. And I'd love to show you guys that, but I don't have a workspace right now that I could show without like revealing people's first and last names. And I don't want to violate any privacy policies. Okay. And Niche, you said also in the workflow section, you can see an active label. Okay. What else? What else do you guys have? Anything? Will we be able to still see the full chat with the bot in the conversation tab? Yes. The answer is yes. So for those of you who aren't familiar, when a bot engages with the customer, it shows up on your sales board, on your kind of like a Trello board. You can click into that conversation. It's just card style. And when you click into that, you can actually just see the whole conversation and you can actually watch the conversation happening live between the bot and the customer. And this is helpful for two reasons. Well, the first is once it's up and running, you're essentially, we've had people saying that it's really nice to like sit and sip coffee like on a Saturday morning and watch your bot handle customers and book them after hours. But the other thing is when you are, our AI is very accurate, and that's because we train it according to your specific business information. But you still need to launch it out into the world and kind of have it start interacting with customers. And you just like you would train a human, like you let them get out there and, get out in the field, but then you watch them and make sure that they're doing it right. And if the bot says anything that you don't quite want it to say, you've got to monitor that. And then you can just go in, you can be like, oh, it said this when I didn't want it to say it. You go into the bot's settings and configuration, and you can make adjustments there. All right. Well, I think it's dying down. I don't see anybody. Julie, you said ours is blank. Ours is blank currently. I'm wondering, oh, right, because you said you're using it, right, Julie? You're using the abandoned call campaign.
I am pulling up the account now on my end just to check for any setup related or integration related issues.
For what, Niche?
For missed calls. I'm assuming, Julie, that's what you meant, your current missed calls campaign?
Oh, she's saying it's blank. Okay, and you were just checking to see if it's an issue or if maybe there's just no, got it. Cool. Any other questions? If not, we can wrap this thing up. See, we have quite a few people that want to learn more, so glad to see that. All right, well, I hope this webinar was helpful for you guys. Nish and Diane, thank you so much for coming. I was educated myself, so this is really helpful. Like I said, the recording will go out about, I don't know, like within the hour, and then we'll send out a written recap as well. And if you have any questions, it'll be easy. You can even just respond to the email. And then we are doing another webinar next week on Google LSA. We had Sam Preston come on back in November. We did a really informative kind of Google LSA session. I think mainly like the first half of it was like, it was like 50-50. The first half was like him kind of sharing stuff, and then it was all questions. So he is working in that platform all day long. So this is a great time to basically get free expert advice from a Google LSA specialist, if you will. So be on the lookout for that. We haven't sent out the email with the invite yet, but that is coming out by the end of the week. So, all right. Okay, Nish, you were just going to the... Okay, so she does have... Looks like this is more just Julie and Nish trying to figure out how to get you guys to see the same thing.
I'll email you over, Julie.
There we go.
I'll send you an email with some screenshots. How about that?
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming out. I hope you all have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thanks. Bye-bye.